So you ever get that sense, that little nudge inside telling you there's maybe more you could be doing, more you could be achieving, and yet you feel like you're, I don't know, wading through treacle.
Yeah.
You see the possibilities, but somehow you're just not gaining traction.
Oh, absolutely. That feeling of being right on the edge of something, but unable to quite step into it. It's so, so common.
Right.
What's interesting, though, and what our exploration today will really get into, is that the key to breaking through often isn't about seeking something completely new.
Okay.
It's about truly understanding and activating the resources you already have, the ones within your grasp right now.
Exactly. And that's really the heart of this deep dive, isn't it? We're going to explore how to get that forward momentum back by taking a really intentional look at what you already possess, what we're calling your discipleship resources.
Yeah.
Think of it as a practical way to identify what you have and how to use it to get unstuck.
Right. And our aim really is to shed some light on what might be hindering you from experiencing, say, deeper fulfillment in your professional life.
Which so many people want.
Definitely. Or maybe a richer journey in your spiritual growth, or more meaningful connections in your relationships.
Those fundamental things.
Those fundamental areas, that contribute so much to our overall well-being.
So to kick things off, one of the sources we looked at uses this great analogy. It's like a farmer before planting.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah, they don't just, dream of a big harvest. They meticulously look at their land, their seeds, the tools they actually have.
Right, they do an inventory.
It's a resource inventory. And that resonates so strongly with our own lives, doesn't it?
It really does.
Yeah.
And this whole idea of making the most of what's available, well, it's a thread woven throughout Scripture. Just think about the parable of the talents. It's not just a story about investment, is it?
No, not just money.
Fundamentally, it's about the responsibility to use what has been entrusted to us, rather than, letting it sit there dormant out of fear or something.
Right. It totally shifts the focus from just waiting for future opportunities to actually engaging with our present realities.
Yeah.
And a key principle that kind of jumps out from our sources is that significant growth often springs not from constantly trying to get more.
Right, not just accumulating.
But from maximizing the potential that's already in the seeds, the tools, the opportunities already around us.
Yeah.
God provides those things.
And what's really compelling is seeing this principle actually at work, like in different contexts. It's not just theory.
Okay.
It's a practical approach that, it's yielded pretty remarkable results throughout history.
Yeah.
And definitely in biblical accounts, too.
Give us a few examples then. Really bring this to life for us.
Okay, well, think about the construction of the tabernacle back in Exodus. God didn't just, poof, make it appear, right? Instead, as our sources detail, he inspired Moses to draw upon the diverse skills people already had, the weaving, the metalworking, the craftsmanship.
Talents within the community.
Exactly. Yeah. And the willing offerings that the Israelites themselves possessed. The necessary resources were right there.
That's powerful. That collective talent, when you recognize it and mobilize it, can achieve something huge.
Right.
Okay, what's another example?
Okay, how about David's face-off with Goliath?
Classic.
Yeah. He wasn't equipped with, the standard Philistine army armor.
No way.
Instead, as 1 Samuel tells it, he drew upon his existing skill as a shepherd, his familiarity with the sling.
What he knew.
What he knew. And his faith, of course. It was about leveraging his honed abilities with courage and conviction against what seemed like, impossible odds.
Talk about a David and Goliath scenario in our own lives feeling outmatched sometimes.
Yeah.
It's inspiring how using seemingly simple skill, stuff you already have, can lead to victory. And then, of course, there's the feeding of the 5,000.
Exactly. As Matthew describes it, Jesus wasn't presented with some overflowing abundance to start with.
Just a kid's lunch, basically.
Right. He started with the limited resources right there, a few loaves, some fish, and through faith and divine intervention, multiplied them to meet this massive need.
Wow.
It just underscores the idea that even seemingly meager resources can be the starting point for something, extraordinary.
It really brings home the point then. Understanding our current inventory, our skills, our connections, our passions, all that stuff, it allows for strategic action and lets us participate in something much larger than ourselves.
Precisely. So before we dive deeper into how to activate these discipleship resources, it's really crucial to have a clear sense of what we're actually aiming for.
Okay.
Like, what does personal growth look like in a holistic sense for you?
Right. because it's personal. And our sources emphasize that growth isn't just one thing, is it?
Not at all.
It's deeply personal. It covers different facets of our lives. They connect it to this really rich biblical idea of shalom.
Shalom, wholeness.
Yeah, that state of overall well-being, peace, flourishing in like every area.
And within that idea of shalom, we can kind of pinpoint key areas where growth often shows up.
Like what?
Well, first, spiritual formation, that deepening of your relationship and connection with God, that really serves as the foundation for everything else. What do you say?
Absolutely. Feels like the central anchor, the source from which all other growth kind of flows.
Totally agree. Then there's professional fulfillment, finding purpose and meaning in your work, aligning your job with your inherent gifts and passions.
Yeah, feeling like you're making a contribution.
Making an impact, yeah. And then relational depth, cultivating those healthy, supportive, meaningful connections with people around us.
So important. Human connection is just vital.
Indeed. And alongside that, financial stewardship, managing the resources we have responsibly, generously, it reflects a sense of accountability.
And this one's interesting, creative expression. Nurturing those creative talents and outlets, whether they're artistic or maybe innovative. Our sources point out this reflects God as creator, which I thought was cool.
It's about tapping into that innate desire we have to create, to express ourselves. And finally, physical well-being, just taking care of our bodies.
Right.
Recognizing their importance as, vessels.
Because as we've seen in the material, our physical health is pretty integral to our overall capacity to serve and just thrive.
Couldn't agree more.
Now, for you listening, we're really going to focus today on that core desire for professional fulfillment and a deeper spiritual formation, that drive to find purpose in what you do while growing closer in your faith.
And we definitely recognize that desire for richer relational depth as a vital support system in that whole journey.
Yeah, it holds it all together sometimes.
So with this vision of, let's say, comprehensive growth in mind, let's turn our attention to why you might be experiencing that feeling of being stuck.
Okay, so we have a clearer picture of the destination, that shalom, that flourishing. But what are the often hidden obstacles, the things that stop us getting there?
Yeah.
Our sources suggest this feeling of stagnation.
Right.
It isn't random. It often signals deeper underlying issues.
Exactly. These can frequently be traced back to maybe unresolved wounds from the past or ingrained beliefs that don't actually serve us anymore.
Okay.
Let's maybe start by exploring some common psychological barriers that our sources highlight.
Okay, number one that resonates with so many people, fear of failure.
Yeah.
That hesitation to step out, try something new, because, well, what if it doesn't work out?
And what's particularly insightful here is how our sources link this fear to a potentially flawed belief, this idea that our inherent worth is tied to our achievements.
Okay.
They contrast this with the concept of God's unconditional love and acceptance, right? And point out how this fear can often take root in childhood, maybe where approval felt conditional on performance.
Oof, yeah, that's a powerful connection. If you were only praised for successes, it's easy to internalize that failure makes you less valuable.
Exactly.
Then there's imposter syndrome. That nagging feeling of being a fraud, even when there's evidence you're competent.
That underlying anxiety of being found out. Our sources really emphasize how incredibly limiting this can be.
I bet.
It prevents us from pursuing opportunities that actually align with our potential. They suggest it can stem from constantly comparing ourselves to others, or maybe a lack of genuine internal validation.
It's like you're always looking over your shoulder, waiting for someone to call you out. Another big one. Perfectionism, that relentless drive for flawlessness in everything.
Which, ironically, often leads to procrastination.
Totally.
And can even result in burnout. The sources we've looked at link perfectionism to an underlying fear of judgment or maybe a deep-seated need for control.
The idea that unless it's absolutely perfect, it's just not good enough.
Yep. And finally, in this sort of psychological realm, there's negative self-talk.
Oh, yeah.
That internal voice that's just consistently critical and undermining.
It's so damaging. Constantly chipping away at your confidence, stopping you from taking positive action.
It really is. And our sources suggest this can be learned behavior, maybe picked up from negative influences or from internalizing critical messages we've heard over time.
Makes sense. Now, moving beyond these internal things, there are also very real practical constraints that can make us feel stuck too.
Oh, for sure. Like time management issues, feeling perpetually overwhelmed, stretched thin, trying to juggle way too much.
Which inevitably leads to that feeling of always playing catch up, missing deadlines, and often sacrificing crucial stuff like sleep or exercise.
Self-care goes out the window. Then there's the challenge of a lack of resources, maybe feeling you don't have the necessary skills or the knowledge or the right connections to move forward.
That can definitely create a feeling of being trapped, like you're facing a wall you just can't climb.
Yeah.
And then there's the issue of unclear priorities, not having a firm grasp on what truly matters to you, like in the long run.
Right. When our daily actions aren't aligned with our core values and our long-term hopes, it can lead to this profound sense of emptiness, even if we're busy. It's like, expending a ton of energy, but not actually moving in a direction that feels meaningful to you.
Absolutely. And it's not just about what's going on inside us or our immediate situation, right? Our external environment plays a big role too.
Definitely. An unsupportive environment, maybe where the people around you are consistently negative or discouraging, that can be incredibly draining.
Oh yeah. It can actively stifle your motivation, your progress.
And then there's the absence of mentorship, not having experienced people to offer guidance, wisdom.
That lack of direction and support can leave you feeling uncertain, maybe making avoidable mistakes, unsure of the best way forward.
And finally, we have what our sources call motivational deficits.
Okay, what falls under that?
Well, things like burnout, that state of deep emotional, physical exhaustion that just makes it incredibly hard to muster the energy or enthusiasm for anything new.
You're just feeling depleted.
Totally depletes your drive. And again, that disconnect from your core values, it can lead to apathy, disengagement, making it hard to find that inner motivation to pursue meaningful growth.
Okay, wow. So we've painted a pretty comprehensive picture of the potential roadblocks there, from internal stuff to external pressures. It might feel like a lot.
It can sound like a lot, yeah.
But the encouraging news is that our sources provide a very actionable step-by-step plan to help rekindle that excitement and start moving forward again.
Precisely. And the emphasis really is on taking small, manageable steps consistently.
Not trying to boil the ocean.
Exactly, rather than attempting drastic, unsustainable changes. The focus is on gradually building momentum, reconnecting with your sense of purpose, and directly addressing the obstacles we've just talked about.
And integrating spiritual practices too, right?
Absolutely. Integrating practices that nurture your spirit along the way.
Okay, so let's get into phase one, the what's in my hands. Inventory and spiritual audit. Sounds official.
Yeah. This initial stage, maybe over the first couple of weeks, is all about assessment.
And the first micro win for week one is creating 2 key lists: a skills and resources inventory and a spiritual gifts inventory. Tell us about those.
Yeah, the idea is basically to brainstorm everything you feel you're naturally good at, what you genuinely enjoy doing, and what resources you currently have access to, like your network, tools, knowledge you've gained.
Okay.
For the spiritual gifts list, reflect on those talents and abilities you believe are gifts given to you. Maybe look at passages like Romans 12.68 for some ideas.
Good tip.
But the crucial part here is just let yourself brainstorm freely. No self-censorship at this stage.
Just get it all down on paper or screen, the obvious stuff and the maybe not so obvious.
Exactly.
Then for week 2, micro win #2 involves identifying, say, 3 to 5 people who you genuinely feel support your growth, your encouragement allies.
Love that term.
Me too. And the key action step is to proactively schedule brief check-ins with them and specifically ask for their prayers and support in this season.
That intentionality in seeking support, it's incredibly valuable. And throughout this initial phase, our sources remind us about value alignment.
Okay, what's that?
Remembering that the gifts and resources we have, they aren't just for our own benefit. They're entrusted to us for a greater purpose. Like 1 Peter 4.30 highlights, it's about stewardship, not just self-promotion.
Right, using them for good. And there's a really empowering affirmation that the sources suggest repeating during this phase. I am uniquely gifted and equipped to fulfill God's purpose for my life, and I embrace the journey of growth with faith and gratitude.
That's a powerful statement to internalize, isn't it?
It really is. Okay, so we've taken stock, we've identified our allies. What's the next step?
Phase 2. This unfolds over maybe weeks 3 to 6, and it's focused on breaking the barriers and cultivating inner strength.
All right, getting into the weeds now.
This is where we begin to directly address those obstacles that might have been holding you back.
Okay, let's start with tackling that fear of failure and the imposter syndrome feelings. Micro win #3 in week 3 is to identify just one small, relatively low-stakes opportunity to step slightly outside your comfort zone.
Just a little step.
Yeah. And the crucial reframing here is to view it as an experiment. like a chance to learn rather than some high-pressure test of your worth.
That mindset shift, it can be incredibly liberating. Following that, our sources encourage actively reframing challenges.
How so?
Viewing setbacks not as definitive failures, but as valuable learning experiences. The suggestion is to take some time, maybe journal about the lessons you gleaned from any difficulties you encountered.
Finding the learning in it.
Exactly. And a spiritual practice introduced here is the daily practice of gratitude. Consciously listing, say, 3 things you're thankful for each day, just to intentionally shift your focus towards the positive.
I found that gratitude practice can be surprisingly powerful. Like it really changes your overall outlook over time.
It really can.
Okay, moving on. How do we address the practical stuff, like time management and unclear priorities?
Right. Micro win #4 in week 4 involves implementing the Eisenhower matrix.
Urgent important.
That's the one. Categorizing tasks based on urgency and importance. And crucially, scheduling dedicated, non-negotiable time slots for both spiritual practices and essential self-care.
You gotta block it out.
That proactive scheduling is absolutely key to regaining a sense of control over your time. Our sources also suggest maybe incorporating an element of gamification.
Oh, like what?
Using a time tracking app, for example, just to visualize how you're currently spending your time.
See where it's actually going.
Yeah. And maybe create a little system of rewards for completing those high-priority tasks. It can make the process feel more engaging, maybe less daunting.
Definitely a way to make those necessary tasks feel less like a chore. Okay, and finally for this phase, addressing burnout and that sense of disconnect from values.
Yeah, micro-win #5 in week 5 is to intentionally schedule at least 30 minutes each day for some kind of restorative activity. Whether that's prayer, meditation, exercise, just spending time in nature. Whatever refills your tank. And treat this time as a non-negotiable appointment.
Protect that time.
Absolutely. This is about intentionally creating space for replenishment, for rejuvenation. And the value alignment piece here involves journaling about how your current work and activities line up with your deepest values, and identifying at least one small way to incorporate your passions into your daily routine, even in seemingly tiny ways.
It's a good reminder that even small, consistent actions can lead to pretty big shifts over time. Okay, so we've inventoried, we've started breaking down barriers. What does the final phase look like?
Phase 3. This extends from weeks 7 through 12, roughly, and it's all about sustaining momentum and cultivating a flourishing life.
Keeping it going.
Exactly. This is where we work on solidifying the positive habits and practices we've hopefully started to develop.
Okay, what's key here?
Well, first, accountability and support. Our sources strongly recommend joining a small group or maybe finding an accountability partner, someone you can regularly share your progress with, get encouragement from, maybe even pray together.
That external support system can be invaluable for staying motivated, staying on track.
Absolutely. Another powerful practice recommended is visualization and affirmations.
Tell me more.
Just spending a few minutes each day vividly picturing yourself achieving your goals and consciously repeating positive self-beliefs. It's kind of like training your mind to focus on success.
Okay, I can see that. And it's so important to actually acknowledge and celebrate the progress you're making, Ron.
Huge. Our sources emphasize intentionally recognizing and celebrating even those small victories.
Don't just brush past them.
No. And share those successes with your encouragement allies. Reinforcing those positive steps is crucial for building lasting momentum.
Good point.
And the final element introduced in this phase is the practice of mindfulness. Cultivating present moment focus.
How do you do that practically?
Incorporating brief mindfulness techniques, maybe like a 5-minute guided meditation, into your daily routine. It helps reduce anxiety, improves your ability to concentrate on the task at hand.
Being fully present in the journey.
Exactly. It's about being here now.
It sounds like a really comprehensive, but also really practical framework. It's not about a quick fix at all.
No, definitely not.
It's about building sustainable habits that actually lead to lasting growth.
That's the goal. And our sources offer reassurance, you know?
Wow.
While the journey of growth might have its challenges, it is ultimately deeply rewarding. And you, the listener, you're not alone in this process. There's a real sense of empowerment that comes from just taking those initial micro wins.
And that core message just keeps coming back, doesn't it? Take inventory of what's already in your hands.
Yeah. Truly and honestly assess the resources you currently possess.
And trust that by actively and intentionally stewarding those resources, there's a potential for growth, for multiplication, that might just far exceed your current expectations.
It really might. Trust that God will multiply your efforts. You've got this.
So for you listening, here's something to maybe mull over.
Mm.
Consider how consistently taking those small, deliberate steps to steward your existing skills and resources, how that could lead to unexpectedly significant growth in the very areas you value most.
Yeah.
Not just in, reaching specific goals, but in becoming more fully the person you were created to be, living a life that's marked by real purpose and genuine fulfillment.